This week on my book club, I'm joined by the fabulous best-selling author Jenny Colgan, whose books are a go-to for anyone who loves charming characters, scenic escapes, and uplifting storytelling. Meet Me at the Seaside Cottages whisks us away to the windswept beauty of Scotland, where fresh starts, community spirit, and a dash of romance await. So we'll be chatting about the inspiration behind the book, Jenny's love of Scotland, and why seaside stories just always capture our imaginations. So, Jenny, thank you and welcome to my book club.
Thank you. It's actually 25 years we're celebrating. I'm even older than the
25?
already extremely old.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh my God. I can't.
You must have been a baby when you started.
Not quite. It's very hard now when I'm trying to talk to young writers and be encouraging, which I always want to be. And they're like, "Oh, how did you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't have a computer at home, and I went to Borders bookshop. I mean, just all these, and I printed it out, and I photocopied it on the office photocopier. I was just." And I mailed it with a stamped addressed envelope, and they're like, "What's a stamped addressed envelope?" So
yeah, people don't do that, do they?
It's getting further and further away. But also, I mean, some of these things, of course, are sad. And I was like, and then it might take them a couple of months, but they'd write back to you. And they're like, wow, because of course these days people don't. I can't believe with our kids that they'll apply for jobs and they just might never hear anything,
No, that's true. That's very disappointing, isn't it, when you don't hear about anything? Fun fact, I don't know if you realise, but I actually narrated one of your books.
Did you?
Back in 2011, I narrated Meet Me at the Cupcake Cafe for the American market.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, I will tell you why. Well, thank you very much, because it did very well. That's amazing, Michelle. Oh, well, it's lovely to meet you.
And what's really funny is it was also recorded for the UK market by Helen Baxendale, wasn't it? I don't know if you remember that. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Don't know why they didn't use me, because I'm British.
Yeah, I know, that's funny. The goodness. Well, there you go. No, I do. I am quite, I'm quite averse. And also then the other thing I will tell you, Michelle, that they do is they send me audition tapes for readers, and I just can't, because everyone is always really good and I have no way to judge. I know from when I listen to audiobooks that I like certain types of readers, but I never can bear to kind of make a decision, so I always pass it on to someone, because I hate the idea of someone not getting a job. It's just such a horrible thought.
Oh, God, we're all used to it.
I know.
That's the voiceover world, isn't it? But I mean, you probably have a vision of your characters. I know when I'm voicing a book, I always have a very distinct, I colour in the picture, I colour in the character, I give them, even if it's not mentioned, I give them eye colour and hair colour. And that's all part of creating the character through voice. But you are very well known for your beautifully relatable heroines. And I think you've done that really well in Meet Me at the Seaside Cottages through both your protagonists, because you've got a mother and daughter relationship that's going on. I love the way that it is so topical these days that we have boomerang kids that come home, don't we? We think they go off at 18 or 20 or something, and whoops, they're back at the age of 30. So tell me a little bit about how you started constructing that relationship to make it so realistic, really.
It became very obvious that, over the years when I've been writing, first of all, I wanted to write for older women and to write older women because I am an older woman. But also, what I'd written for years when I was writing younger protagonists, younger women, is that they'd have flat shares, and the flat shares might be funny or they might be of no interest whatsoever. It depended what I needed for at the time for the text. And if it wasn't working out, you just move somewhere else and find a flat share. And that has gone. Mm-hmm. That has completely gone. It is unbelievably hard to find flats. You need tons of money for a deposit. You're not going to be with a bunch of 20-somethings kicking about. There'll be 40-year-old divorcees there. And, it's the housing market has got so impossible that I could no longer in any realistic... I don't write realistic novels, but I write a heightened version of reality, No longer just have people move into different properties as if that's something you do without it being a big bother, It is a huge issue. So I couldn't not write about it. I couldn't, because I was seeing it all around me so much. So my kids are just leaving home now. They're 16, 18, 20. So there's one away and one going in September. But I'm seeing a lot of kind of people bouncing back. And I think the other thing I'm seeing a lot of it now, really quite shocking, is divorces. People who've waited for the children to leave home and then they get divorced. And it's really taken me by surprise at this age. I kind of figured if you could make it through the baby stuff, you'd kind of be all right. There was that element. So anyway, so we've got our main character. Now, this is, I always do this. It's like 3 years ago. I never remember the name.
We've got Janie.
So, so Janie has basically, she's been through one of these awful divorces where the second the last kid leaves, it's just horrible. I keep seeing it happening. And she's just, over the years, kind of got it back together. She lost her house and everything, but she's found a little place, a tiny little place to live. She's just ready to get back out there. She's just getting her life back. She's in her 50s. She's ready to give it a go. And boyoing, back comes Essie, the daughter from her big job in Edinburgh, who had left a small village, kind of shaking the dust off her feet. Like, see you later, losers. And now she's going to kind of...
bye.
Yeah, bye. And now she's got to kind of come crawling back to a certain extent. So Janie's trying to be the loving parent that we all try to be to our children throughout their lives, no matter how old they are. However, it's exasperating, I think, would be fair to...
It is hard, though, isn't it? Because I think when oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, Jenny. I'm just going to have to ask somebody next door to stop laying the carpet for 5 minutes. But actually, that is really funny that we all got interrupted there, because my daughter is working from home today. And I had to say to her, sorry, you can't be in the office upstairs. You now need to find space. And I've got calls, Mum. I've got calls. I can't do. So I absolutely sympathise with Janie's predicament that she wants to be that wonderful mum again. And she's kind of excited about creating that connection that has been lost. But adult kids come back with a different attitude. They've been independent. They do things their own way. They're not as biddable, were they ever? And I really felt that dynamic between the two of them, that it is so tricky, isn't it?
Oh, it's nuts. I mean, I left at 16 and my husband left at 15, and we both had good relationships with our parents, but we never, we went home for a couple of days at Christmas. We never went home again. We never went on holiday with them again, And so, yes, I don't think it's anything that we're kind of prepared for.
We're not. And of course, for Essie, she's had a tremendous disappointment because she was riding the crest of a wave and enjoying the designer handbag life and hanging out with the elite of Edinburgh. And she's come home really embarrassed, tail between her legs, that she's lost her job.
Oh, this is the other thing I don't understand, is the way that kids have to do internships to get to do anything. They have to work for free. And that wasn't the case when we were kicking about. And it seems so unfair. There's just no way. I remember when I was at university, I wrote to Aardman Studios, the plasticine people, and I said, can I come work for you? And they said, yeah, sure. But of course they weren't going to pay, but just moved to Bristol. And I was like, well, how with what could I possibly do that? It's so miserably unfair. And so, for her to have to go and, look for unpaid work, it just, I don't know. I mean, the risk of sounding like, the world's oldest fogey, I really worry about what our kids are going to do for jobs.
Yes, I agree with you. And it becomes very unfair that it's really those kids who can be supported financially by their parents who are able to take on those unpaid jobs and therefore be more successful in the long run. So what about the kids who don't have that financial backup? How do they afford housing, as you mentioned, and just any kind of life to get on the ladder?
Yeah, well done for your parents being born in London. It's just like, oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, postcode lottery. Exactly. Well, I mean, seriously. I can tell that you're quite passionate about a lot of things, because one of the other things that comes up quite a lot in your book, and I thought that it was quite interesting that Janie, you got really specific about her. And I wanted to ask you this. Why did you choose to make her an audiologist? And how much research did you have to do to make that feel very authentic, that she knew what she was doing? You knew what you were doing as a writer. Did you do a lot of research on that?
Well, we have issues in the family, so we've kind of come up against it a fair amount. And then I also used to work in the health industry, so I did get to see a lot of stuff. But actually, it wasn't a case of me wanting to make her the world's most authentic audiologist. I like writing communities, and I like the interaction. So whenever we see her, she's always busy. She's a busy person. She's always in the middle of something with another character, the kind of people that walk through your door. And the one thing that always struck me whenever I've had contact with the industry is audiology is one of these services where people really like their jobs, because they make a real difference, and you don't really, you don't lose a lot of people. The other kind of outlying specialty where people love their jobs is chiropody.
Oh, really?
the difference chiropodists make to people's quality of life, same as audiologists when they get it, is enormous. You have this huge effect on people and they just love coming to see you. And so I liked all that about it, the healthcare satellite services that are not all doom and gloom. So I didn't do masses of research, but I wanted to make sure, because I had met a lot of people that work in that industry, but I wanted to make sure it felt like that she was always busy and that she loved her, that she, basically that idea that younger people have, that your parents don't really have a life when you're not there. I wanted to make sure that was, because Essie's life is, she's 26, so her life is massively feedy, dramatic all the time, and I get that, and it's interesting to me, but of course she thinks her mother does literally nothing at all. I wanted to make it very clear that was not the case,
Clearly not the case. And she's tiptoeing back into the dating world. And again, this is fascinating because, as you said, silver divorce, the midlife divorce is on the rise for a number of reasons. In midlife, people decide that it's not for them. And also we're living longer. So, the idea of, when we were 50 and our kids leaving home, we may have 20, 25 years ahead of us. We are now literally possibly in half of our life. We've got another half to live. So if you're not happy with the person that you're with, I think people are more in gear to think, I'm going to make a change right now because this is not going to suit me till I'm 95.
Yes, and if not now, when? Yeah.
If not now, when I'm still feeling, energetic and I could still get into the dating game. But it is scary for women, isn't it? To, we've got wobbly bits in our 50s. We don't look like we were in our 20s. And we may have been with one partner for decades. And then to imagine having those intimate moments with somebody else is quite scary.
It's horrifying. I can't even. The last time I took my bra off in front of a stranger, well, it was my mammogram. So
right.
Well, all of that, of course. And also the thing is, the world is full of really fabulous women in their 50s that are full of get up and go and all the rest of it. And then, some brilliant men and lots of kind of real kind of, who needs doobie covers kind of guys. I know, it looks really terrifying out there.
I feel like men can get away with a lot more in terms of body image, and they're more comfortable with their body image anyway. So they've got the pot belly or the, a little bit of a midlife tie around their waist. They don't seem as worried as we are. If only we were a bit more accepting of ourselves.
But yes, I think that's right. And I think there is a sense, and I don't want to be sexist, and I don't want to go, all men or all women or anything like this. But I think there's a sense that a well-preserved 55-year-old with his own house and car is attractive to a very wide range of women.
Absolutely.
That's just, whereas a 55 woman can look absolutely fantastic for age and have her own house and car, and quite a lot of men just don't want that. Like, oh god, she's got
the younger model.
Opinions about stuff. Yeah, exactly. So what are you gonna do?
What are you going to do?
Write comic novels about it, Michelle.
That's what you do, Jenny. That's what you do. Now, the other thing that you touch on is tourism, and sort of kind of linked with the lack of housing in Scotland and people wanting to go to these gorgeous Highland spots, but they're in and out. Sometimes they bring their own food. They don't even go and bother to shop local and help out local businesses. Clearly, you feel quite passionate about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a problem all over places that are nice, I was looking at a piece about Barcelona, and I went to Barcelona about 10 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was amazing. In that 10 years, the visitors have gone from 30 million a year to 100 million a year. I'm like, I don't know how that can conceivably work. And Edinburgh, of course, which is where I spend a lot of my time. And you want people to see how beautiful your country is. I'm delighted when people come, but also in some places it's making it extremely difficult for communities. And it's not just tourism, but in the north of Scotland, the young people do leave and they go and find jobs and they don't come back a lot of the time, and it's hard. You need to keep the schools open. If you lose your school and you lose your post office and you lose your bank and you lose your pub, then you're
losing the heart, aren't you? The heart of the village is just destroyed.
This is not just a problem that's limited to Scotland. Cornwall sees a lot of it. Wales sees so much of it now that I think that they stop you at the border, and if you can't speak Welsh, they charge you £1,000. I don't know, but you know what I mean.
Understandably protective about what they want to look after and promote. And they need the industry. They need that. We need tourism as a country very much.
You do. It is a balance, and it's interesting. In Edinburgh now, they've kind of stopped all the Airbnb stuff, which is quite useful. But yeah, I know. It's just like everything else here in the world, it's a very complicated issue.
Life is complicated, and I think you demonstrate that very well in this book, that, it is a bit messy, and things that you think were going to be in a straight line never are. And, you can get from point A to Z in all sorts of different ways. And that's what all the characters of this book do. I think you are very good at drawing a character like Dwight, for example, an unusually eccentric character for that neck of the woods, I would imagine. Was that inspired by anybody, or no?
No, people that don't live in Scotland don't really realise we have a massive country and western tradition. Country and western music comes out of traditional folk music. It comes out of Irish music and Scottish music. That's where it's from.
I did not know that.
So culturally, we have a few, particularly the West, which is where I'm from, we have a huge line dancing tradition, a huge Grand Ole Opry tradition. We have a big Opry in Glasgow. My dad played in a line dancing band for years and years. So no, actually, Sydney Devine was a big cowboy singer from Ayrshire. So no, actually, for Scottish readers, Dwight will be a very familiar character, particularly because they get the kids doing it all dressed up with their hats on and stuff. It's part of Scottish culture, but to non-Scottish people, it's probably going to come as a bit of a surprise. But no, to us, we have quite.
I've learned something.
Boot scooting community of the west of Scotland. It's kind of lovely. It's just, but yeah, the fiddles and the guitars and so on. It's just a form of traditional music. It always has been.
Yeah. Now you wrote this a couple of years ago, you said. So no doubt you're already on to maybe 2, 3, 4 books since then. What are you working on at the moment?
We've got a really lovely Christmas. Oh, I love it so much. It's a proper tumble down castle mystery thing, and it's just I love writing it, and I think it's got a lot of charm to it. I think if you're in the mood for it, you're gonna love it. And then we have finished writing next summer's, which is in the editing processes, which is going to be quite controversial. It's a kind of coming of middle age story, and it's very passionate, and it's quite short, and it's set over one day. It's set over 24 hours, and yes, I'm very excited about how that is all going to work out. So yes, always nice and busy.
Wonderful. And what is on your bedside table at the moment? What do you love reading?
I just finished Dream State, which is great, which is out in a month or so, I think. It's one of these big fat American novels, but it's brilliant. It's about it sounds like a cliche, like a bride who falls in love with the best man at the wedding, but that's the only cliche thing about it. And then it goes all the way through their lives, how it affects the children, how it affects the friendships. Fabulous. And then I'm reading a new thriller called, what is it? Oh, I never remember what things are called. The Life of Joanna O, I think it's called, and it's great. I have no idea what's going on. A woman walks out of her Brooklyn apartment with a baby, and she looks fine, and she vanishes without a trace. So there you go.
I love that kind of novel. That sounds good. Good old thriller. Well, Jenny Colgan, thank you so much. Meet Me at the Seaside Cottages is out on 19th of June. And if they want to follow you, where can they find out more about your news?
On Facebook. I have a Facebook page. I'm not on Twitter anymore because, all the evil. But I am on Instagram as well as that writer, Jenny Colgan.
Wonderful. Jenny, thank you so much for joining me today on Book Club.
Lovely to talk to you. And yeah. Bye.